Hey crafters, DM Scotty here. Good to have you with me. Today I'm going to detail some more of my trapped dragon lair that I've done recent videos on. The whole lair was basically a trap, so it was interesting. But what's kind of cool about this video is the tile itself is really neat, but it was more than that. I had multi triggers set up that if they did one thing, it could lead to another. So, and the more bad choices they made, the worse it could get. So this was kind of an interesting concept for this layer. More than so than just, okay, a one-off trap or something else happens. This was, if you trigger something and then you do something else and you do something else, you could trigger multiple events that could be really, bad. So that was what was really interesting about this layer. Now, there's so much to this kind of section that I was going to do it in a couple of vids. So what I'm going to do is explain how the whole multi-part trap rooms worked, and then I was going to show today I was going to show you the pit with the razor sharp rocks circling the pit into it, in the pit, and the ice bridge going across. So I'll show you that tile today, and then with the other vid, I'll show you the other rooms that were adjoining it, and how that could work out if the players did something maybe they weren't supposed to. So, all right. So I've rambled on enough. Let's go to the table, and I'll show you how I set that up and then how I crafted it.
All right, guys. So I thought it'd be easier to explain this to you on a notepad, and then we can talk about the tiles. If I just start talking about the tiles, it won't make much sense. So let me lay this out on the notepad, and then you guys can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so essentially when if you've seen my Dragon Steam room, they had two ways to go. And if they went this way, if they went one way, this was this kind of series of rooms. So I had a cave tile that kind of went out like this, okay? And then I had a ledge on each side, and this was the wall. And then I had a pit, okay, and the pit was about 50 feet deep. Now I had a ice bridge going across, okay, so that's the bridge. So this bridge is like magically created out of ice. It's very thin, so it goes across. And then around the edge of this pit, circling the pit all the way down, are these jagged stones. So I basically had almost like teeth, like pointed stones, okay? And these were all the way down, okay? Now there was also wind coming up from below. So there's kind of a swirling gust of wind coming up, fairly strong, coming up from the bottom. So now if they went to the next room was a cavern, okay? And it ended in an area that went up. Okay, so you'd have to go about 20 feet up to go up. All right. Now this room is sloped like 30 degrees, so it's kind of like this much of a slope. Okay. And it was made of ice. All right. So this room is all ice. Okay. And I'll show you this on another. I'll show you the ice room on another video and how I did that. So the idea was that they could get across here and there'd be an ice room. But below this other room was a kind of a square room, but it had corners that were kind of like hexagonal, I guess, like this, okay? And it was carved out in this shape. And it had a large air elemental in the bottom that was creating this whirlwind that was kicking up through here, okay? I also had metal plates on each of these walls. Okay. So, the trick was not only to get across this, but to get through this room too. Okay. Now I had some stuff that would attack the players, and I'll get to that in the other video. But the thing I want to stress is, I knew my mage would be skittish in this room, okay? And so I made this room highly magical. There were sharp, I told them there were sharp icicles hanging down, kind of sparkling with magic. And so he got really, really nervous with that, all right? So he decided, all right, I'm going to dispel this, okay? So what I had was all this ice in this room instantly turned the water, shoots down this 30-degree incline, pushes them into this pit, which of course, when the water starts flowing in here, the water force is so strong they can't resist it. Pushes them into this room. Of course, it becomes like a drain where they're getting raked against these rocks, so they have to make multiple checks to try not to get shredded by these rocks as they're swirling down this hole. When they get to the bottom, of course, there's the air elemental, so it's making this whirlpool in the center of the tile. They do end up, a couple of them go down actually, they do end up coming out of it, but it was a pretty rough encounter. Now the trick with this one was these areas were filled with sand, okay? So if they would have ended up dispelling this air elemental, all the gates go poosh and come down, and then this sand pours out, so it would have been like basically like quicksand in this with all the water and everything. But they didn't end up dispelling this, so they didn't have that problem at least. But so this was kind of a multi-part trap depending on what they did. Now if they wouldn't have dispelled this, I had some ice walls that were going to attack them and try to push them off anyway into this area. And they couldn't really easily retreat because of this ice bridge. They had basically, they came up with a pretty genius idea. They kind of straddled it and put a rope around in their hands so they could just kind of like crawl across like this. And I thought that was a pretty genius idea. But anyways, so they even if they slipped, they'd be okay. So they got across that way. So, but yeah, so there were multiple ways that this could have gone down. Most of them not very well, but anyways, now you see the kind of setup of this area. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to do kind of a multi-part video. So I'm going to show you this whole part here, okay, and then I'll do some other videos. I might put these in the same video, but I'll do more videos showing the rest of this whole trap. So there you go. That's how everything all worked together. And so let's go to the table and I'll show you how I crafted this nasty pit with the ringed with these razor sharp stones.
The cave tile started out as a standard cave tile. You can see I used a double thick cardboard because not because of the technique, but it did work with the technique. What I was going for was the dragon cave, and I had rather large tiles, so I ended up using the double thick cardboard. But it ended up working out pretty well because I cut the bottom piece off, and then I put the side ledges on there, and then I put the, like I do with a standard cave tile, I measured the wall and attached it. So so basically I was ready to go. So after that point, which I don't show, I attached the triangular shaped regular thickness cardboard to create the razor rocks. Now in this picture I've advanced somewhat, and you can see the tile is painted, so I've given it the coat of the spray texture paint. Then I painted the center with a black, and then I highlighted the razor rocks with some dolphin gray. And then you can see I used some pewter gray and painted more rows of rocks, kind of diminishing off into the distance. So that kind of gave a sense of depth to this pit, and I think that was a really nice technique. Now the ice bridge is simply just a piece of cardboard that I've cut and bent, and what I did to get the bend was I glued some cardstock on each end, and that helped keep the bend of the bridge intact. I also, when I made it, I also did a little bit of hot glue to cover
bend that I used to make the bridge pop up. And after that, I painted it a primer gray, okay, because I was going for ice. So I could have painted it white, but white doesn't stick very well to cardboard. I find that gray is a better starting spot, so I used the gray primer. Then I used white and light blue acrylic on it to give it kind of an icy look. And at this point, I got some very small glitter, and this gave it a really nice kind of sheen and sparkle that made it look like ice. So I rubbed a little bit of PVA white glue on the bridge after the paint dried, and then sprinkled some of this glitter on it. Okay. So at that point, I decided I wanted to give it like the icy sheen. So instead of what I've done in the past, where I painted on top of the glue gun, I actually put some hot glue on top of the painting. So I painted it, and I was very careful not to mess up my earlier glue gun stuff that I had painted over, because in the crevice, or in the crack of the bend of the bridge, because the glue gun can easily melt previous glue gun applications. So I was very careful with that, and I covered the bridge with a nice texture of glue gun glue, and that gave it a nice icy covered texture with that blue and glitter underneath. Okay guys, here's our tile in all its glory. Here, I'll put a poor little mage on the bridge there to show you the scale of this. So there you go, it's a fairly large tile. Like I said, I used double thick cardboard because these tiles were very big in the Dragon Cave. Now, give me a close-up look at this bridge. You might be able to see a little bit, the light really reflects off this and it's hard to see. But you might see a little bit of the glitter in there. Okay, and that really gives a nice effect to it. And painting underneath the hot glue and then putting the hot glue on top really gives it a nice ice effect, I thought. And it's kind of nice. Let me take that off for a sec. So here's kind of a close-up of the tile itself. You can see that I have the single width cardboard that I stuck on there, and then the other rows I just painted on with a pewter gray. So I highlighted the first row, and then I just used pewter gray on the secondary rows to kind of make it look like they're going down into the pit. Alright, so there we go. That's a nice little trap. Now, the rooms, the previous room was like the Dragon Steam room, so they kind of had to hurry out of that one. And then the next room will, of course, be the ice room and everything. So then I had the pit with the air elemental in it. So what I'm going to do is, this is a multi-part vid. I'm going to explain those. I don't want to make the vid too long. I'm going to explain those in the other vids. So I will see you next time on the craft for more Dragon Lair goodness.
Hey crafters, I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the DM's Craft. Make sure to subscribe, and I have tons of other videos, as you can see. I am the originator of the 2.5D method of crafting tiles. I also do dirt cheap terrain for the table. If all this intrigues you, make sure you check out all the videos below. Also, join my forum. We have lots of great crafters on there who give advice. I have a link above and below. And last but not least, remember, go forth and craft!